GPUs, and so much more. Today, I have Leonie with me, and she's going to tell us all about Kaiser Network. And she's the co-founder of Kaiser Network, and we have been excitedly partnered up together in GPUs. So today's session would be the future of compute and why decentralization GPU network is very crucial for tomorrow. So Leonie, over to you. Would love to know about you, what you guys have been building. Tell us more about it.
Sure. Hey guys. Thank you very much for the introduction. So yeah, my name's Leonie. I'm one of the co-founders at Kaisa Network, and we've been building in this space since 2016. And yeah, so right now we're focusing on Kaisa for the last 6 months. So basically, what we are doing is that. So at first, we wanted to build a GPU network. In order to connect the GPU providers with those who need it, whether it is enterprises or AI developers. And now we're moving on to the next stage of the development after we've built the GPU network, which is moving on to the DeepInFi sector. So that is the quick introduction of what Kaisar is doing.
And I think I was introduced to your network somehow by somebody. Like I told people about that we are building decentralized GPUs, so people were like, "Yes, you should speak to them," and it's the need of the hour. And like right, whenever you go to conferences, it's very much narrative driven. Like if everybody is speaking about GPUs, they be like, "Yeah, we should really speak about why decentralization is very important and what's the whole point of decentralizing." The GPUs itself. But I think what I like about Kaiser and even Spheron in this case is the approach towards taking decentralized compute because there can be so much compute, right? But the possibility is that it cannot be captured by one scenario or one set of users or one set of providers on top of that, and the whole collaborative structure of Spheron. But why do you really think, Leonie, why do you really think that is it really necessary to decentralize GPUs?
So before I say yes or no, do we need the decentralized GPU networks? I think that the overarching issue that these networks, like Kaiser network or Spheron networks that we are solving is the high cost and the inaccessibility of those computational resources. As you just mentioned before, the supply is really limited, right? So and I think this is critical barriers in advancing technology fields such as AI or AI agent when you build AI agent in gaming and just general scientific research. So I think it is needed, this decentralized GPU resources, decentralized GPU networks. And I think in the future, what we can do also is that, for example, in order to train one AI model, right? Instead of getting, 1,000 of 800 or H200 from one location in India, for example, it can come from all around the world, and each block data is going to be trained in one specific location. For example, if you get some data from France, then you can train those data with the compute base in France, and you don't have to centralize all of those GPUs in one place in order to train your model, for example. So I think is necessary.
Yeah, like necessity comes to the part where if people do not understand it and people do not realize it, like why in the first place, like if we really question people from the very first principles of it, like why decentralized compute at all, they would try to understand it more deeply than other people and try to understand like even what Spheron is even doing with Fiznos is a very interesting topic around how we are innovating the whole space around GPUs, and we are like onboarding partners like Kaiser to make it more democratized as well. Like because decentralization also comes with a part of democratization too. Like you give the accessibility to everyone. Because if I say like today, like I want to create a startup or a project or whatever, let's say a simple library, it would cost me more than hundreds of thousands of dollars just to train my sim as m- most formidable data set on top of it and come to a real conclusion. And so far for research as well, like research is also very far fetched when we speak about uh, decentralized compute. So it really brings me to the next question, okay? And it's like, do you really think that people who are, because this question is pretty important for everybody, because as you can see that most of the companies are not SOC compliant, right? So you guys are coming from a web 2 enterprise experience where a big large player, if they want to work with a larger compute player, they would only work with companies which have sort of certifications like SOC and which are GDPR compliant. The compliances should be really a part of it. And this question is the curveball because it was not in the run of the show. But I really want to understand, how do you think that decentralized compute would be used into mainstream by these legacy companies?
Yeah, that is a very good questions, and I agree with you. When those big accounts, they reach out to compute. First of all, they're gonna call AWS, right? Alibaba Cloud. Those who are in the space for the last, I don't know, more than 20 years, and they've been here since forever to support these companies, right? So they got the trust, they got the reputation. So when you have the reputation, and a good one, of course, you can get easy access to the customers. But now we don't want, and we don't think that the centralized solution is suitable for the AI development in the future, for the advancement of technologies in general. So we push the decentralized technology. So I agree with you. This is a very, very interesting question. So in my opinion, like how we're gonna do that is like to push this decentralized, just DP in general, or decentralized compute network mainstream, is first of all, it's you gain trust in whatever orders, right? You can gain trust from the B2C side first, or the B2B side first, whatever you see fit. So from Kaisa point of view, so what we are doing right now is that we are working alongside of those that we worked with in the past when we were in Web 2, with the GPU, for the GPU side. So we work with these enterprises, and we try to explain to them why you should move to decentralized compute instead of centralized compute, because you get more optimization, accessibility, and also the cost reduced by 5 times, etc., etc. So you get all of these bits. So once they understand, I think next they're gonna push their AI startups, their partners, etc. So I think that is something that gonna play a crucial role in pushing this technology mainstream. That's my opinion.
And that's like converting your big web 2 clients to your web 3 compute, like. And I feel trust building is one of the most important things that web 3 should do in any kind of development per se. Like, people do not trust web 3 apps, like, call it how scalable it is or however it is solving the world problems. I think we need to understand the core of it, where it lies. Like, for example, if we are building a decentralized network, there are people who are into research, and there are, like, I see there are committees which are specifically focused on ML learning, which are specifically on AI, and are utilizing these machines for research. Like, our approach has been that because we were not into web 2 before, like, I think definitely Kaizen can leverage their web 2 experience in this. But what our approach has been in this is that to uh, is speak to people who are really utilizing these GPUs into their day-to-day tasks. Like, we are also speaking to interestingly enough, we are speaking to somebody who's researching into battery tech, and they're pretty big in terms of that. and we would understand the robustness of our own infrastructure as well. Because before preaching that this could really change things in terms of cost or in terms of latency or in terms of picking up a compute job, we need to understand at what scale it can be done, right? Like what happens if a really big client joins you in, and how would it happen? But do you really think that most of the decentralized compute network are based on chains, or are utilizing AWS, GCP, or on the back end? Like, because it happens so many times, like when they go ahead and they preach that they are decentralized, but at the end of the day, when you see the port map, or their addresses are mostly AWS, GCP addresses. So do you really feel like, are there, like, I am not speaking about Kaiser or Sferon, but what do you feel? Are there more in this segment?
Yeah, so I think so that is unfortunate, but that is also the reality. I've seen it, and I mean, well, AWS does, offer some great credits, right? Sometimes they offer $100,000 of credit to this startup. We've been offered, and we said no right away. So, well, when you say that you build decentralized compute and you partner with AWS, that's just that's just not right, right? So at Kai right now, AI and blockchain to this subject regarding the on-chain matching system between providers and end users. I know that the subject of decentralized compute has been going on for a while. Everybody's been doing that. There are a lot of different projects, but do they really do that? That's your question, right? I
Yeah.
think that is a questionable question. So if we go on the product side and we try to launch the app, and we see that, okay, we can analyze the uptime, we can analyze this and that, it doesn't mean it's decentralized. And what really is decentralized, we see, with the use case, like how those compute are placed into specific use case. For example, let's talk about AI agents, right? For examples, we're pushing the future of spatial web right now, right? Like in the past, we call it metaverse, but it doesn't fit anymore today. It's more like spatial web or responsive web with the Apple Vision Pro, right? So if we talk about the development of AI agents on this spatial web, like how will decentralized compute push the boundaries of this development, and that is the kind of question that we are trying to understand and trying to develop at Kaiser, in order to not only us understand and develop that in-house, from our team, but also to explain to the user, like what can you actually do when the testnet or the mainnet of Kaiser and Spheron goes live, and when we partner with these companies, etc. So I think the question of education, is very, very crucial, because nobody, I think not everyone understand what is the limitation of centralized compute today.
Yeah, like, yeah, because I think where I see it coming from and why it is truly necessary, because like when we try to convince Web2 companies to utilize infrastructure, right? Like that's that's actually the hardest part of understanding the tech, is that you have to go out there, like for GPU companies, our target users are just not Web3 companies, but also AI based companies, and which are not Web3 driven, but like we have a very broad target audience in terms of what can be done with compute. So it means that we have this big ocean of blue ocean of Web3 companies which are utilizing compute, and also this red ocean of companies which are already there and but are using Web2 players. What do you think it makes the difference between AWS, GCP, Kaiser, and Spheron? Like, what do you think are the major differences between these companies whenever they are providing compute?
Yeah, quick. This is a good question. So for this question, I would like to understand from Sven point of view first, if you want to go.
Sure. You you shared the curveball to me. So
Well,
yeah, let
well,
me let me. So I think one of the biggest thing is the composability and the price point. Like if I go today and I want to lease out, like if we are speaking of H100, there are H100s which are even not the same. Like for example, if you're connected one H100 to the network, it if it does not have NVLink and a lot of other things, it is not similar as the others connected to it. So when we were speaking about the matchmaking engine with the providers and the users, it makes it different, right? Because you are what Spheron is trying to do is trying to tier all those providers and also incentivize providers for being active in the network. So that does not happen in your Web2 marketplace. And it is one of the ways you keep your providers incentivized. Because if you speak to providers today in any part of the world, they are not very happy with how things are going on. Because let's say these XYZ providers and these PQR users, while connecting them, these big conglomerate charges lot of money just for their cloud infra. And they do not have the flexibility to lock in out of that. Like you have to understand this middle layer of AWS GCP is is absolutely more expensive than any other network out there, and that is how they are making money as well. Like that is no doubt. Like there is that is how the part of the business is. But what we are trying to do is to make it more transparent and more democratic than just few of the companies taking a whole set of decision making on top of it. And you're free to do it. Like Sharon's whole approach is to make it open source. Like whenever you say about open source companies, when it comes to like let's say Web2 companies doing a lot of open source stuff, it it really boils down to their goodwill, right? Like for example, if Meta today wants to make Llama live because of some they don't want to showcase that they are just not doing creating things for their end, so they would do it for in how much space they are comfortable in. And similarly, it's all about Web2 infrastructure companies as well. The flexibility and the composability is really less. You can't go and negotiate the prices again with any players out there, and it's not there. And that's what Spheron is trying to do. And even like if I tell you about Fiznode, you will love the whole concept of, for example, if you want to connect your own machine to Spheron's like Fiznode, you can easily do that. And like we just released, like we are just in on our process of releasing it to the public, and there are things which are going on. But imagine for everybody to give out compute task to these fizz nodes and how easy it would become. So the whole flexibility and democratizing the whole cloud segment, that's what Ferron is trying to do, apart from Web2 companies. So yeah, would love to know your POV on this.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, what you just said. I think one of the main point that differentiate the decentralized solution versus the centralized solution is the transparency. As you said, the providers right now, when we talk to them, they're not very happy about what's going on. And decentralized solution, compute network like Sphere and Kaiser, we can solve that. But I think there's something that us in the Web3 we didn't really reach that level is I would say the customer service. That the thing that AWS can offer. For example, obviously in Web3 we have the bonus, the slashing system, kind of thing. But the customer service in the Web2 is kind of different. For examples, if let's say if your data centers accidentally cut the node, that your users are doing. In the Web 2 side, you can claim, the SLA, but in the Web 3 side, what can you do? Okay, you can reimburse, you can, do the slash system for your providers, but that is all right. The customer service is not that deep in Web3 today. So I think there's a lot of pros and cons with the solution that we all are building.
True. Like, and it comes with, like, we cannot build a network out of not having problems, right? We would not be able to understand how to rectify things, because you understand these things are being built for for a lot of time. Like, this some question which I wanted to also truly understand, that Kaiser is built on top of Peak, and Spheron is built on top of Arbitrum. So could you provide us, like, what is your advantage of building on Peak, and why is it Kaiser's choice to build on top of them?
Yeah, 100%. So what I can say about that is, so before we chose Peak Network, we actually built our own layer one. So the reason why is because we want to fully customize all the kind of use case that we can develop later on with our GPU network. And at that time, we did, consider Peak Network already, but we thought they are only focused on, the physical side of GPU and not the digital side, because Kaisa is digital. So we later on we talked to Peak, and they actually do both. So we said, okay, so instead of wasting our resources and our time building an entire new, modular GP in layer one, we're gonna build with Peak. And it was actually a great choice, because when you see, you look at the Peak ecosystem, those are all GP projects. I think they have more than 35 projects right now, if I say it correctly, all GP in the physical digital side, and AI projects as well, AI layers, data layers, or compute layers like Kaisa. So I think they offer really um, unfair advantage comparing to other layer one, because we as a GPU network, decentralized compute network providers, we can tap into those 35 projects at Peak and say, okay, you're building in DP, we are providing the compute layer, let's work together there. It's really easy. It's like calling your investor and say, can I collaborate with your portfolio companies, for example. So that is the first among, several different support that Peak is providing us.
That's pretty amazing. Like, and I feel we have some sort of similarities over there. When I speak about Arbitrum as well, the team has been very supportive of what we have been doing, and pushing us to different avenues throughout. Like, also it brings me to my next question, right? Like, I I I have saw that you guys have partnered with Nvidia and TikTok. So, what, like, tell me more about these partnerships, and what are they like? How you guys are working with them, and would love to know more. Like,
Yes, 100%. So with NVDA, we are incubated by them. The NVDA, forgot the name of the incubation program. You know that one. Everybody can get in. I mean, not everybody, but like most of the startup that I work with, NVDA is that's the one. I just happen to forget the name. So that is for NVDA side. We have a purchasing contract, very interesting one with them as well. So with TikTok, they're actually on the demand side of the compute. So we're providing, to all of these companies that we mentioned on our website.
is there a program by Nvidia? I'm okay. We weren't aware of that.
Yeah, I put it on the website, but I just happen to forget things these days. Yeah, Inception
Yeah.
program.
Oh, okay. Would love, Leonie, if you can put us in touch with them. We'll also be try to be part of the Inception program, because we have been one of the biggest supporters for NVIDIA for sure, because all of these machines are NVIDIA. And yeah, and like, for us, like, I'll tell you, like, we have been working very closely with any of the partners who are very much doing into data. Like, we recently had partnered with Zero G as well, and they are doing pretty interesting stuff in that. And also, we are speaking to multiple partners where they are solving the issues on scale. Like, do you guys have any plans of, like, what does next 2 to 3 years look like for Kaiser?
Yeah. So the next 2 to 3 years, I think we're still gonna be in the GPU space because that famous phrase from Sam Altman. I think that he said, computer is going to be the new currency of the future because AI is gonna be advancing nonstop, and it's not gonna stop there today, nor in 2 3 years, or even in 10 years, right? So everybody's gonna need the compute, but what type of compute, that is the different question, right? So today there are a couple of companies that are producing their own edge hardware devices for inferencing, for example. So that is something that we are also considering, because we have to advance with AI, with the technology, and we cannot stay in one place and say, okay, today we are a GPU aggregator, and in the next 3 years we're going to stay the same. So we're trying to find the narratives and what makes sense for us in the long term, and we're going to develop, I would call it a product suite around the GPUs that we own.
Understood. So where does Spheron fit in next? Like, what do you think that this is something which we can do with Spheron for a longer period of time? Like, wh-
100%. I think right now, so obviously we've mentioned, there are a lot of different projects that are building kind of the similar things in this ecosystem. It doesn't mean that we are competitors, right? Because the compute resources, they're actually very limited. So the reason why that we reach out to Sferon, at the beginning, is because we needed your help on the supply side, completely transparent on that. So in the future, I think you guys gonna be the main one who will be covering your for example, the Indian area, for examples, for Kaisa, because we don't cover that part at all, in the world. So moving forward, if we can tap into even larger network of GPU, maybe it's not gonna be the same type of GPUs as we speak today, but any type of GPU in the future. Moving forward, then we're gonna have giant pool of GPUs to do, for example, DeepInFi, any kind of products in the future, right?
yeah, and where I see like Spheron believes in collaborative structure of working. We do not think anybody as like competitor is not a Web3 word. Like, because the only thing we can do is collaboration and be very subtle yet loud about it, is that there are there are times, like there are days, there are decades where nothing happens, and then there are days where decade happens, and we are all uh, preparing for that for sure. And where I would say is that Spheron is working with everybody in the space for providing as much supply as we can. Like, whatever partners we have, we really go and understand their tech, understand how what kind of architecture they have, and how we can push through. Like, even the whole concept of creating Node is to get people utilizing day-to-day machines can connect to the network and become part of it. Is the whole idea is the ideas are always noble, but execution is where it takes the reality of that idea, and we are trying to bring more fruition towards the execution as well. Because once you see that, like once you see Sferon and Kaiser working together, and as you said, like there can't be less compute. Like, there is so much in terms of compute that needs to happen, and our focus has broadened from India towards throughout the world. Like, we have so many, we have acquired so many US East machines, US West machines, and in SEA in different regions, and it can grow to something much more bigger by the support of our ecosystem partners. And we love to create things which are mostly use cases, which can be utilized with people on a day-to-day basis. Like, let's say running an open source model on top of Kaiser and Spheron can truly happen, and that's what we really believe in. So yeah, that's
100%.
that's the whole point of it. And I okay, yeah, please go ahead. You were saying something.
Yeah, I think the future is going to be very bright for all of those who are building in the same space, right? Because right now we're talking about chain abstractions, with all of the layer one, layer two. So what we can do in the future. So I think, like, just in my humble opinion, is that one day we're going to create something that can aggregate all the, deep in compute protocols, like Sreon, Kaisa, Aether, IONET, all of them. For example, if you have a network of, let's say, 1 million of compute coming from the MacBook users, let's say, for example, right? So what you can do with that is you can earn the yield coming from all of these protocols, compute layer abstractions. So that is what we're looking at right now, because as you just mentioned, there is no such word as a competition in the Web3. We abstract and we help each other grow. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of doing all this, right? Like the 24 24/7 available market should really lead to more collaboration than distinction throughout. So
100%.
coming to the last part of the whole segment, what are the few things you want to add towards this? Like the point of doing tech fusion, AI, GPU, and beyond is that what is the beyond for you? Like what do you feel is beyond for you? What's going to be like for just not about Kaiser, just not about uh, partnerships, but what do you think is beyond post that? Like,
Can you kind of reformulate the question, please?
yeah, for sure. So AI, GPUs, and beyond. So the beyond segment is what you see the market in next 10 years, and what's going to happen in next 10 years, how we would be utilizing compute, what's going to happen, are we going to use LLMs, or is it going to change into SLMs, are we going to do private inference? What do you think about that?
Yeah, you just mentioned the last word is something that is very interesting, the private inferencing. This is something that Kaiser is looking at right now. I think this is gonna happen, much nearer in the future than in 5, 10 years. It's actually something that I think lots of companies are looking at right now, the private inferencing part. And yeah, with your own, let's say, MacBook or iPhone, you can train the data on your node, and you can do the inferencing task on your devices, for examples. But I think in the future, this is going to be much, much bigger than that. I remember the CEO of OpenAI, him once mentioned the universal basic income. Do you remember that thing? Coming from the universal basic compute. And so that is the exact thesis, I would say. So everybody can provide, everybody can share, everybody can monetize their own compute, right? So this is actually something that is already happening. So in the future, I think what is going to be interesting is something I just mentioned earlier regarding all these AI agents that we can deploy in the spatial web. For examples, people who need the virtual, let's say, tour guide in the spatial web, for example. Say you have basically your virtual assistant going with you everywhere to help you, to find things, for example. So in order to train the AI agents with the private compute network, I think that is something that we're gonna be looking at in the next couple of years.
Amazing. And I feel, yeah, that's how things should be. And in terms of like, there are some sort of, I would not say, there are some annotations of AI people should be aware of, and like people should understand. What are these annotations of AI which they they feel, for example, like do you use Chat GPT by any chance? It's a question.
Yeah.
It's a yeah, we do it, right? And whatever we ask Chat GPT and we think that it has inferenced is the right output, or it should be the right output, but it is highly dependent on how that model has been trained. So
Yeah.
people do not understand the nitty-gritties around it, and AI is a hallucination right now. Like for example, like AI can do most of the work for sure, but that is substandard work. So we need to understand how we pull out ourselves from that hallucination and really lead towards the actual use cases of AI. And now, we, like by Claude, there are so many people who are shifting to Claude right now, just for specifically for code. And then you have seen Cursor as well. There are much tools which are being built which removes that part from hallucination. So I definitely think that we would be more closer to more real use cases which are not which are just not right now. We are at a very premature or a bit mature stage, but it's going to be supremely mature when it comes to next 10 years for sure. And I think 10 years is a stretch. We are moving pretty fast. Like I think I remember the time when it was GPT-2, and now it has just crazy with uh, whatever we have grown on to. And I think on the last note, I'll add few things. The one of the most important thing I want to add is that we are going to launch our Fizz node very soon, and it's time that we really decentralize compute, and you can all be part of that campaign. And it's fairly very simple to do that. We would really drop out the steps, and we'll send it to the Kaiser team as well to attach their machines if they want to, and would love to have everybody on top of that because that's how you can democratize compute and cloud. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching this. And Leonie, thank you so much for coming in. And it was an absolute pleasure to have you over here in Tech Fusion, AI, GPUs, and beyond. And I wish Kaizen Network the best. And let's see how we decentralize the whole GPU market pretty soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me in this talk. Really appreciate it.
Bye.